41% of the leaders identified inaccurate decision-making as the #1 risk of inadequate data skills. Why, after all the tools that we have, the situation is still like this?
Because the data interpretation skill gap, is more widespread across companies than many people actually realize. The greater access to data via dashboards and self-service analytics doesn't mean, that the end users are unable to interpret what's being shared with them.
When we create a report, we need to have our end users in mind. Even really good dashboards can be at risk of not being adopted properly if onboarding is not being done in the right way. If we just put the dashboard out there and hope for the best, well, it's quite risky.
Hello and welcome to the webinar number 46 of the Zebra BI webinar series. My name is Andre. I'm the founder and CEO at Zebra BI. And today we will discuss how to unlock your data for better decisions using Power BI, various Power BI features, right? But really how to make it how to put it in the center of your decision-making processes, right? So that's slightly different to what we were doing before, where we were mostly focusing on creating really good and actionable data, dashboards. This time, we will take all this and try to put it in the process of leading, of managing, of steering your business based on the data insights that everybody can, gain from your beautiful Power BI dashboards. So let me start with a couple of facts. All right, number one, global business intelligence adoption rate, 26%. All right, so 26%, roughly above a quarter of business intelligence efforts are being adopted. That's terrible. That's a really low adoption rate. 74% of employees feel unhappy or overwhelmed when working with data. 74%, right? So that's vast majority, 3/4 of your people unhappy or overwhelmed when working with data. 32% of executives believe they can make meaningful use of data. So only 1/3 of your executives, or you're one of them, make meaningful use of data. Or at least believe so. So that's also very poor. 48% of organizations make decisions using quantitative data skills. So half of it, all right, maybe that's slightly better, I would say, but still, it means that half of the other ones don't make business decisions using quantitative data skills. And 41% is the identified, inaccurate decision-making. 41% of the leaders identified inaccurate decision-making as the #1 risk of inadequate data skills. So that's a vast consensus. So that's all the leaders believe that this is basically the #1 risk of inadequate data skills. Why, after all the tools that we have, after all the best practices we are preaching, after beautiful and extremely powerful tool like Power BI, the situation is still like this. These are, quite recent polls. Couple of reasons. So, with dashboards like this, where you have people are being presented an overwhelming number of chart statistics, and they have all of those options, how to navigate the data, what to filter, where to click, and so on. They are just feeling overwhelmed. Of course they do. Just look at that. Where would you click, right? What would you do? Do you understand if these are my KPIs? Am I doing good or bad? How good? How bad? Where should I make some adjustments? Where should I focus the action steps and so on? How do I even understand it from by using this dashboard, right? And so on. So another case here, where should I click? There are filters here, and so on. And now you have all of those users that are responsible for their business areas, for efficient marketing, for efficient sales, for efficient operations, logistics, and so on, right? What do they need to do? They need to understand their KPIs, right? They need to be looking exactly at their KPIs. They need to understand where are the numbers of their goals and how they are performing on each of those goals, each of those targets. So this should be simple and very easy to understand, but then also why, okay? So they should be able to click and so on, get from the result to the cause that contributed to this result, right? And, analyze it further, discuss it, with the relevant team on a meeting, offline, on your internal social channels and so on, right? And then take some action steps, decide on certain decisions, write them down, follow up, and check the same dashboard after 2 weeks, a month, depending on the initiative, and see if, they have improved that result. Now we have been talking about the design, the data visualization, the best practices, how to design and structure your landing pages, the structure of reports, what types of charts to use for certain purpose and so on. We are not going to repeat this today. We will share, of course, all the webinars where we have talked about it, and also provided many tips and tricks in Power BI. So you will get all of those resources at the end. Stay until the end. We'll hand out the action list. But instead, we will talk today on additional steps, right? Not just how to create a great actionable dashboard, which of course is the first step, but then also how to onboard your users, your managers, executives, leaders who are actually using them, how to make sure that they are getting what they actually need, how to make sure that they understand what is on the dashboard, how to make sure that they are able to navigate it, and how to do it in a way where the process is extremely user-friendly for them, right? Because what you want is you want a great adoption of your dashboards exactly by those with those users, right? So we'll talk about this. We'll talk about how should you include Power BI dashboards in modern workflows, like in your teams, in your teams channels, Slack channels, email, whatever your channels are. How to make sure people use them when they work together, and especially how do you use them in meetings to transform those meetings from long brainstorming discussions without any data insights and facts. How to turn those meetings around so that your Power BI dashboards, data insights are in the center of the meeting, and all of the decisions are revolving around those metrics, achievements, gaps to the target, and so on, and everything steering towards better business decisions. Now, we have collected what we will talk about today from our work with all of our clients. That's more than 3,000 companies in the world, where we are trying to help actually exactly with this adoption transformation around analytics. So we will hopefully, these insights from various types of companies will will help you in your own journey towards more actionable decision making. All right. So I'm Andre, the founder of Zebra BI, but I'm not alone today. Actually, I have two great colleagues of mine here today. So Tina Zimic, the head of business intelligence team here at Zebra BI, and Thielen Barbarich, our lead consultant. So hi guys.
Hello. Great to be back on your webinar after a while.
Yeah, all right, that's true. That's true. I'm so happy that you're here, guys. So actually, both Tina and Thielen together prepared the bulk of this webinar today. They are both professionals. Tina used to work actually as used to work in a reporting department of a real company, right, Tina? Before you joined Zebra BI, is that true?
Yeah, that's correct, and that means that at least to some extent, I was also, being involved in, I guess, topics that we will discuss today. So hopefully I will be able to provide some useful insights.
You practice what you preach, right?
Yeah.
All right. And Thielen used to be a consultant. Would you share where did you get most of your experience?
Indeed, I was a consultant. I was actually a financial advisor in a Big Four company. But not just that, I was also part of a controlling and reporting team in one of the leading pharmaceutical companies. So I do have experience with issues that we're going to be discussing today. So tune in, listen to us. We have some smart ideas to share.
All right, great guys. Okay, thank you so much. Everyone, please put all of your questions into chat. We'll have the Q&A at the end. And Tina, take it away with the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Andre. So as mentioned, right, there's a lot of things we need to consider when launching the dashboards. But today we're going to be focused on the part, after hopefully we have a great dashboard in place. But now, the job is not done. We still have some really important things to do. So we'll start with different onboarding strategies, how to make the most out of the dashboard. Then we're going to add some theory in the background. How do we actually process data? How do we interact with the dashboard? Also in terms of features, how to make the most out of them. And then I guess at the end, we'll put everything together from the perspective of how to, really apply this on everyday level decision making, so that at the end, we can make the most out of different business intelligence solutions, which I guess it's the key goal of all of us. So as mentioned, let's start with different onboarding strategies, because when we create a report, typically we need to have our end users in mind, report viewers, if you will. And let maybe start with this one. So the executive level users, I'm talking about C-level executives, board members, directors, VPs, and so on. And of course, each of those groups has its own specifics. So typically these are a bit smaller groups, not that many people. These are really smart people, driven, but also really busy, which means that they don't have tons of time to really, go into the data. What they need is clear insights right away, so that they can make impactful decisions. After the meetings or on a daily level, whatever, basically. But in regards to that, it's really important to have a right strategy for them, because their decisions are highly impactful. And for those people, for that group, we would advise a bit more personal approach from this perspective that, as mentioned, this is a smaller group of people and it's manageable. So it makes sense to maybe go on a meeting. Let's say we launch a new dashboard or update the existing one. just go on a meeting, explain the rationale behind it, maybe before and after comparison, what did we improve, show the logic behind it, make sure that all of them really understand maybe additional features, because as mentioned before, they don't have a lot of time, and in that time, they need to make the most out of the dashboard. So as mentioned, personalized approach makes sense here. And then, just work with the team. Maybe at the beginning, you can go through dashboard altogether, make sure everything is understandable. Repeat this a few times also to see maybe if there are certain gaps, if there's, questions, popping up every time. And this is also like a signal for, certain improvements that need to be applied maybe. And then, also have like regular reviews just to make sure everything is still in place, right? So this would be like one example. Let's say this is the old report, and then this is actually redesigned on exactly the same data. This looks significantly different, right? And it makes sense to invest a little bit of energy, to maybe explain the logic of IBCS in this particular case of, variance presentation, different chart types, but they will, obviously see the benefit right away. And this is really important because even like really good dashboards can, be at risk of not being adopted properly if onboarding is not being done in the right way. If we just put the dashboard out there and hope for the best, well, it's quite risky, right? Now, let's continue with the second group. This is kind of on the opposite side of spectrum. So let's talk about like casual business users. So I'm talking about users that are using like organizational reports, not too detailed ones, like general data and so on. And typically this is like a larger audience. We're talking about a few hundred people, maybe even a few thousand people in large companies. But typically, right, there's a lot of different users that don't visit reports on a regular basis. Their data literacy is not particularly high, which means that we need to maybe use a different approach how to onboard them properly on this report. So what we would advise here is much more scalable approach, because as mentioned, it's a lot of people, and it's you kind of have one-on-one meetings with a couple of hundred people. So what I mean by scalable approach, what I think works really well, if you, for example, record like a short 3-minute demonstrational video where you explain like the top level KPIs, maybe the key features of the dashboard, for which purpose was it designed, so that they have like an overall understanding of what is going on, right? And now in 2024, it's like really easy to really, put together a really cool video without a lot of effort. And of course, those scalable materials could also be maybe like PowerPoint presentations and so on, that you can then put, on internal SharePoint or Confluence or something similar. One thing I would point out here is that, within that group, typically you still have some power users, meaning people that, love working with the data, they have higher analytical knowledge, and it's really important to maybe include them in the onboarding strategy, because think of them as your helping hand, like an extension of you. They can do like, this role of internal trainer within their own departments, meaning they can onboard new people, they can, provide additional explanation and kind of help you with onboarding within the certain departments. And then maybe if you do want to include more personalized approach, work with that power users directly, and then they can scale this across entire user group. Okay, so I don't have an example of tutorial video, but this could be like maybe an example of material, like really, plain and simple, easy to consume, where you have like a key explanations or key messages right away. And, this can significantly increase the onboarding efficiency of the users. Now, the third group would be, I would call them, the power users, the analysts, meaning the people that, work with the data, have high analytical knowledge, are familiar with the reports, they know the features, they know how to read the data, how to, make decisions and so on. So for them, Yeah, basically a different approach is needed, I would say. First of all, it makes sense that reports are more customizable, meaning that more advanced features are included so that they can really, dive deep into the data. Also, like, different customizable options are I would say welcome, because they can use report to full extent. Typically, they also want these export options where they go maybe also in data sources in the background in order to do some additional analysis. And with them, I would say it's not that much of a training. It's more like maybe a relationship, an exchange of opinions, like Q&A, or some sort of community within the company, right? Because they have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and it can be like a great exchange of information. And again, they can serve as additional like amplifier of your voice within the company. Then the next one would be I would call it like the operational type of people, or like, people from the front lines. So typically these are people that, work on more operational things, and reports suits them in that context, meaning that they have like really specific and they need really specific and actionable insights. They are like focused on their individual things, tasks, performance related stuff that they need to address. Not necessarily, they don't have necessarily like, strategic overview of everything where they would need to combine tons of data, right? So they have like more laser focus approach. And for that, right, you don't need like too advanced report in a lot of cases. So it comes down to really having maybe really good documentation, explanation of KPIs, calculations, and, things to, things in that direction. So again, this is really scalable, and I would say like the documentation can solve a lot of things here. So this is one example of the P&L report. And then, let's just focus on this. So this could be like, additional explanations, or the cheat sheets, where you have everything explained in details, how the calculations are done, what are the KPIs, and this can be really powerful for those type of users, or maybe something similar with just explanation of some of the key features, or some key calculations, KPIs, and so on. So I would put like clear documentation in the center here. And maybe let's wrap it up with the last. This is not so much a group, but I would say rather a situation that is common to all the report developers. So we know that reports are, not carved in stone. They are a live thing, and of course they are being updated. No new features are added, and so on and so on. But then again, it's really important that all those changes and improvements are, properly, how should I say, communicated with end users. And for that, I would put this in the section of like introducing new features or design, because if people don't use, features improvements, then I guess it's opportunity lost, right? So what I mean by that, here I have one example of the report. You can do a lot of things within Power BI itself. So for example, on this report, if I demonstrate, we just, with the help of bookmarks, we created tutorials. This can be one way of how to also do the onboarding, but it can also be like used for maybe new features. Let's say I added this like scatter plot analysis onto the report, and I'm not sure if user will understand it straight away. I can do like really simple, user-friendly, intuitive tip, where you have maybe explanation on the left and then some demonstrational GIF on the right, and user just click on that, dedicate like 30 seconds, and they have understanding how to use this feature. This can really improve the user experience. So to recap, and let's call this 5 golden rules for user onboarding. So again, when you make a plan for report onboarding, have your user needs in mind, and also their analytical knowledge, data literacy level, because only if you have a clear picture of that, then you will be able to choose like the proper onboarding and training for them. Super important. Then we would also advise, to not start with like a spaceship. Start small, set the foundations, let it sink in, so that they have like, good baseline, and then, build on top of that. Add additional features, learn the people as you go, and kind of build data culture and data literacy step by step. We believe that this approach makes more sense than maybe overwhelm the users with too much at the beginning. And then I mentioned this a few times, but like feedback is really important. Feedback, when we launch a report, this is not the end of the project. It's actually never-ending cycle of communicating with the audience, receiving their feedback, ideas, improvements, and so on, and then implementing them if that makes sense. And if you do that, onboarding of the dashboard will be much more successful. And then also let's keep in mind also this engagement and collaboration. There are different ways how to achieve that, but this should also be a part of the onboarding, because if you are able to achieve that, I would argue, that it really, increase the engagement, and by doing so, it also increased the likelihood of reports being used properly, being used for decision making and so on. All right, so this would be the onboarding strategies. And now we are moving, I would say, like from the report developer perspective more towards end users. So how do then they use the report? What's the logic behind it, and so on? Now, before we go into the concrete features, Dylan will share some light regarding like theory in the background. How do we process information, colors, numbers versus charts? So what is kind of the cognitive aspects of processing the data and reports? So yeah, Dylan.
Thanks, Tina. Thanks, Tina. Exactly. The topic of data interpretation, how then the end users take the data and how they draw the insights out of it, right? It's also something that should not be neglected, because the data interpretation skill gap, is more widespread across companies than many people actually realize. Funny enough, most organizations have significant investments into technology or BI platforms, but no matter how good or high investment is, the greater access to data via dashboards and self-service analytics doesn't mean that the end users are unable to interpret what's being shared with them. So what I'm going to share with you actually is, some of the good practices of how to look at the data, how to interpret from the data, right? So to get from data to insights and then actions that really benefit your business. So after you've been properly introduced to reports, onboarded, as Tina described, you should be able to interpret data as per the 330-300 rule. I know maybe some of you have already heard it. I did, and I find it very fascinating. And it's actually based on a visual information seeking mantra written by Ben Schneiderman in 1996. So it's almost 30 years old, but it's it's still quite relevant and quite informative. And what it actually tells us is, in the first 3 seconds that you look at the dashboard, you should be able to get an overview of the most important questions and areas. And then in the next 30 seconds, you should be able to filter and zoom to identify periods and categories which you should focus on. And then in the following 300 seconds or 5 minutes, you should get details on demand to drive the decisions and actions that may have a positive effect on your business. But let's look at it on the real business use case. So we have an example of a sales dashboard, and quoting again, I'm quoting a Brent Dykes. He wrote an article, and by the way, he's also the author of a book called Effective Data Storytelling. In one of his articles, he says, the first step with interpreting data is to familiarize yourself with data before you start mentally processing it. What this means is that you should start by understanding what metrics and dimensions are displayed on the dashboard. So what is the data range, and also what is the source of data after all. Then to start interpretation, you should begin with high-level summaries or key performance indicators, the KPIs, and then proceed to a more detailed analysis, starting from the top and going to more details. So generally, you should look for the most important information in the upper left corner of the page, located right here, and then follow the report elements from left to right and top to bottom, the so-called Z pattern. Note that this pattern applies to audiences who predominantly read from left to right. I think I saw in the chat that we also have someone from Saudi Arabia. When the audience is used to reading from right to left, as is the case with written languages such as Arabic and Hebrew, the reading pattern actually starts from the upper right corner and then follows the report elements from right to left and top to bottom. Why do we actually look at the reports? Is actually we want to ask the 4 key questions, and I think 2 of them already mentioned by Andrei in the beginning, but let me point them out again. So the first one is what is my performance? Is it good or bad? Then I need to assess how good and how bad is it? How fast do I need to act on it if it's really bad? Then why is it so? And what are we going to do about it? And to answer those questions, what we, as each individual, we need to examine the dashboard and find interesting anomalies, gaps, and trends in our data by focusing on visual elements, so the colors and the scale of the variances. Now, according to the International Business Communication Standards, the IBCS, those should be standardized to ensure, really easy understanding of the reports. Colors have a meaning and should be used consistently. So green is good, red is bad. And applying scenario patterns, the dark gray color denotes actuals, and it means the same thing in each part of the dashboard. Likewise, the outline pattern for plans. And then as a result, once everything is standardized, broken down into simple, visual elements, it is much easier to digest the information and understand what's the key focus point of the dashboard. So you should first start on the top left KPI with visual elements such as cards to understand the bigger picture. So looking from the top down. Then the big numbers actually in this case represent the actual value of performance in April. And additionally, to give context to this number, you should look for variances or comparison to plans, forecasts, or any other comparable metrics. Then following the pattern, you should move right to the chart to have a clear overview of trends and seasonality and understand the performance throughout the year. Again, the green and the red parts of the columns represent the good or bad variances when compared to planned values. And this might be quite an important input for you or your colleagues when they do, year-end estimates or forecasts on any planning for the future. This is quite a valuable point. And then look at tables that include visuals to give immediate insights into the importance of each data point or each performance driver. Again, with the focus on the size and the quality of variances, you should quickly understand what are the main performance drivers. For example, notice how the waterfall chart as part of the table at the bottom right, how the waterfall chart is used to explain the main components of the total performance. Those that are green, the categories that are green are building up my performance, and then who are the red, those are the most worrying, let's say. And then obviously to address the final 2 questions, what are we going to do about it? Then use the comments with comment markers to explain the why of particular data point and propose actions to your colleagues, to collaborate them. Based on experience that we have with our users, so users of Zebra BI and Power BI users, but also from my personal experience, I can assure you, this is a critical piece of the dashboard that is often missing. And here are perhaps some, to support my thesis, my statements. Here are some of the testimonials of the business users who have been successful at implementing actionable visuals into their dashboards and have made a positive change in how much value a business reporting can really bring to their organizations. And then, obviously, naturally, the next step is then to utilize the dashboard interactivity features to explore the underlying patterns and provide deeper insights, which is what our experienced BI expert Tine, who we already met, will present us in the following minutes. Right, Tine?
Okay. I'm back.
You are.
Sorry, Dylan, you were straight to the point, so you caught me off guard. But yeah, so in this section, I'm gonna focus on actually the basic features, how to interact with the dashboard. Now, for experienced report developers, I guess this will be really a really simple one. But nevertheless, let me share some cases. And let's start with a really simple dashboard. So here we have an HR overview. And as Stila mentioned right at the beginning, we kind of do like a quick research of the data, meaning we check the variances, we check the colors, we maybe check some top level numbers, and then we want to go more into the details. Now, typically, how we can perform that is by applying a certain filters. So typically we have either a drop-down menus or maybe slicers, and I can simply just switch from one year to another, okay? And all the, visuals have been filtered accordingly. So now we are getting to the, I would say, the added value of the dashboard that enables you to really go into the details and explore the data. But of course, we can now make this even more advanced. So what we can do is the so-called cross-visual filtering. So let's say I want to focus just on the segment of, employees that are full-time employees. I can just simply select this element, and now, things are filtered just for the full-time employees. Okay, so we have changed the year filter, and now we have also apply a filter based on employment type. But then we can also do like cross visual selection, which means that if I press Control and then my left mouse click, I can incorporate or include also like all the people that were not include, but filter the data with master degree. And then I can also select just the people that are like very highly satisfied with the job. And basically I'm adding additional filters on my initial selection and basically, narrowing down the results in order to understand more specific situation. So this is kind of a filtering in general. It can be used in a lot of different ways, but it's really powerful from the perspective of going from top level information really into the details, which is how typically we explore the data. Then we have some other options. Maybe let me demonstrate this on this profit and loss statement. And this one again is really simple but also powerful. It's the simple expand and collapse. So if you have hierarchy, if you have some sort of hierarchy structure on your charts tables, you can just simply expand and collapse the hierarchies. So if I want to go with top level revenue number, that's it. But if I want to, see a bit more detailed elements, I can just simply expand this category and see more details below. And the same goes, for example, for the costs and so on. So basically, this in the similar way enables you to really expand the data and go into the details and see, the underlying performance that's in the background. Then slightly more advanced features would be the tooltips. So by default, you have the tooltips that basically provide you just the numbers, and this can be like a good option in some cases. But even more advanced feature would be the so-called so basically a report page tooltip, where you kind of incorporate a chunk of your report in the tooltip. So let me demonstrate this on one example. I can see the performance of a certain product categories, and I can see that this one, for example, is performing like quite strongly below the plan. Now, of course, like initial reaction is, what's going on here? I want to understand this bad performance. It's like really easy. You just put your mouse on top of it. Sorry, I'm being clumsy. So you just why is this disappearing on this one? Okay, let's go with this one. But basically, in the tooltip, I see like additional angle to the performance. In this case, performance by a certain countries, and I can immediately like spot that like the worst performing countries are United Kingdom and United States. So to summarize, like tooltips are really super easy to use, and they can offer you a lot of additional insights into a certain data points. Maybe one limitation of the tooltips is that, typically they are a bit smaller. Of course, you can resize them, but typically, you're limited with space and amount of information you can put within that dedicated space. So for that cases, drill through can be really great option. Drill through basically enables you to go more into the details again from a certain data point. So let's check this product group, for example. We see below the plan performance. Now again, we can check the performance by countries, but now we want to go even deeper. So I will do the right click on this element, and I will select the drill through option. Now, here I have all the corresponding pages where I have this drill through connection set up. And by drilling through the data, we actually mean that you go and analyze this specific data point more in details. So in that case, right, we selected specific business unit, and now when we do the drill through, now on this page, everything is filtered according to that original data point. But we have now additional insights to that. So this is one way how you can incorporate, even more insights into, let's say, like regional data points that you want to analyze. Maybe I haven't mentioned comments. This, I think, it can also be like a great addition. Now, obviously, for report viewers, the whole idea of the comments is that they go and read them and kind of have even better understanding of a certain dynamics, because comments can provide certain insights that numbers cannot. So including comments can be like a great addition. But it's even better if this is engaging in a way that also the end users, provide business inputs, so that a report is kind of like a gathering point of all the relevant informations and insights in one place. And then maybe one last feature, and this, I guess, will already set the tone for the last part of the webinar. And this is how to use a certain feature of a dashboard to drive productive meetings. And for that, I think personal bookmarks can be a great option. So here we have like one template with some really cool brands. So here we have the Nike, and then we have some financial statements, income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. But now let's say we go and analyze something else. So we go into this fast-moving consuming goods, and let's say we analyze let's go with Unilever. Okay, so let's make this an example, and let's say we have a bad performance at a certain P&L account. We can discuss this, make an action points and so on, and then we can just simply make a personal bookmark. So I will just click on this one, add personal bookmark, and I will just rename this one like this. I'm gonna save it, and then we're gonna continue with the meeting, and then we're gonna find like another company. Let's maybe go with J&J, and we will have another situation that we will have discussion, have some action items, and so on. So again, we're just gonna create a personal bookmark. So let's call this one J&J. So now I have my bookmarks set up. And now let's fast forward 1 week later. We have another meeting. We want to discuss the action items, maybe check the results and so on. We can just simply go into this section of the report where we have, the bookmarks and we created. And this can already be like an agenda for the meeting. You just click on this personal bookmark, and here you will have your data filtered for this particular, whatever, basically business unit. It could be a country, it could be sales channel, it could be particular store, product, segment, whatever, basically, right? But what I'm trying to get at is that this can like really improve the interaction, so the experience with the dashboard, either if you analyze the data on your own, or if you are running a meeting and want to, start a conversation around it. And as mentioned, I guess this is already like, how should I say, a subject for the last part of the webinar, where Andrei will kind of put all those things together. The onboarding, the features, the logic, how we interact with the data, and how can we achieve at the end, the ultimate goal, which is to make informed decisions, good business decisions that will, drive our business, give us competitive advantage, and really makes us, or should I say, one step ahead of our competition. So, Andrei, yeah. Okay. So me and Tilen have done a lot of talking. Hopefully we created a good foundation now for you to recap everything, because this is, I guess, the key. And a lot of companies are struggling with that. To be honest, including like Zebra, sometimes we have discussions, how to make the most out of the data, how to be on a meeting, be prepared, make data-driven decisions. And I'm sure like Andrei has some good insights how to incorporate everything in like a great game plan. Andre, over
Thanks.
to you.
Thanks, Tine. I mean, you were so thorough. I don't know what I can add. Maybe to summarize it, and a couple of maybe my personal recommendations, very practical ones. Let me share my screen and try to wrap this up with a couple of practical ideas here. All right, so one thing that is very important, the meetings, right? Meetings in many types of shapes and form are actually where the most important decisions are being made, right? And this may be, traditional meetings, live meetings in a boardroom, in a meeting room, and so on. Or they may be virtual meetings in your Teams, in Zoom meetings, and so on, depending, on the type of your work, whether you work remotely or hybrid or not. It might be a combination of both, right? So I think it's really important to get those meetings to the point where you can actually name them data-driven meetings, right? And also from my personal experience, right, it's not easy, right? I mean, our company, Zebra BI, is, it's still a small company, around a bit more than 60 people, right? But I mean, we do have all the business areas, right? The sales, the marketing, operations, accounting and legal, HR, and so on and so on. We have many meetings, and me as a CEO, right? I also feel like I'm actually on a mission to make those meetings more data-driven, and even in our company, which is all about making the world data-driven, right? We need to practice what we preach, and we also struggle, right? So we also, keep improving this. And for sure, from my experience, leading our company for 10 years now, I've learned a couple of things, and we have done some things that work, and we still have areas to improve, right? So let me share what I believe works today in in this world of data-driven meetings that are also remote, many times very collaborative, and so on. So in 3 steps. Number 1, before the meeting, okay? Before the meeting. Everything starts before the meeting. So first of all, of course, you need to create all the dashboards, follow Tina's advice on setting up, report page tooltips, bookmarks, commentary, and so on, right? So make sure that you actually prepare great actionable dashboards that are easy to understand, where people can actually see their performance and so on, right? Maybe I would add one thing that is actually key to make really good data-driven decisions, right? Which is, of course, you need to know your audience. That's number 1. That's the first step before you even begin planning. When you start planning your dashboards reports, right? Know your audience, right? And what is key about your audience? They have certain goals, of course, right? So they have certain targets, goals, plans, and so on. So you need to set up the right KPIs in order in those dashboard, right? So they, you need to have the right charts, but also the right charts about the right KPIs, but not just the KPIs, like the end KPIs, like our revenue, our costs, our annual recurring revenue, and so on, but also one level below that. So basically the drivers for those KPIs. That's very important, right? That when you set reports up, people can see the KPIs, but also they can in one step assess, okay, what is driving those KPIs? Because if my revenue is, 20% below the plan, right? I will want to understand, okay, why? And we typically in dashboards have all the like breakdowns by, revenue by country, revenue by product, by area, by customer segment and so on, by region, right? But many times we don't have this step, this step where you would basically go in have the cause and effect relationship inside the report, and you would say, okay, if my revenue is down, what was driving this change in my revenue, right? Like for example, in our company, this would be the number of qualified meetings with our prospects, like the number of sales qualified leads that marketing is generating, and so on. There are lots of things that are influencing, our revenue as they are in yours. So this is like the second level of KPIs that you also need to include there, right? So that's the first part, right? Once you have this for your target audience, right, make sure that you do this first step before the meeting. First, set the agenda of the meeting and do the pre-meeting preparation, which means that everyone who is on the meeting, should actually check their dashboards before the meeting and share it. Okay? So, and share it in a communication channel that is, most natural for your company. This might be Microsoft Teams, chats. In our company, this is Slack. It might be email, right? But like Slack or Teams are certainly better than email, right? Because they're more interactive. You share something, you share your interpretation. Maybe you also have you added the comments already on the dashboard, as Tina showed, right? And then people can collaborate and ask some questions even before the meeting, right? So this preparation step is really, really important so that people, when they will join the meeting, they will actually understand already what's the situation and so on, and what the topics are, what are we going to discuss, right? Now, when we are on the meeting, whether it's a virtual meeting or, it's in a boardroom and so on, right? It should not be, of course, just a discussion and brainstorming, just talking, right? To turn your meetings into data-driven meetings. Of course, your dashboards, your analysis, your reports should be the central focal point of your meetings, right? So, soon in the early minutes of the meeting, somebody should share, of course, the dashboard. Okay, now, this ideally should not be a static PowerPoint picture. Okay, that's very important. For really quality data-driven meetings, it should be a live dashboard. So let me just share one example. So maybe it's Power BI, and we are discussing our finance. Our finance in April, and we got to the P&L statement. Voila, somebody would share this, and we would discuss it, and so on. Of course, we would probably check the variance to plan, and so on. And now we observe something like, oh, all right, our cost of goods sold actually 1 million above the plan. That's not good, right? So 13.2% above the plan, right? Why is that, right? And of course, now, why do you need now live instead of static PowerPoint pictures, right? Because you can now, okay, so we see this, and and you actually open this. So you do the drill down, you click a couple of times, you do the filtering, the cross filtering, everything that Tina explained. You have some tooltips and so on. So you show it live in a picture of your data, so that people really understand what's going on. And okay, it actually looks like that this category of service and other costs is actually driving this this variance here. So what you do next is, you have a discussion, and once, you've discussed it, you can actually live in a meeting comment on it, right? The commentary again is it's the bridge between the data and the action, right? So it's like written instructions, and the commentary should not just be, oh, we have 1 million, which represents 13.2%, versus plan and so on. No, that's already clear from the picture, right? The commentary is your gateway into action. Okay, so we should write something like, I don't know, we should, so, some recommendation, some sort of action, what's going to happen, what do you propose, and so on. Maybe you already made the resolution on the meeting, and then you just simply write this as an action item. We should, we should cut the maintenance, some type of costs here by something, right? So it should be some concrete action, what we will do, right? And you just write it down right in the middle of the meeting in front of everyone. Voila. And this is it. This is now a part of your dashboard. It's here. It's documented. It's documented exactly on the right data point, right? And for the right, period of time, right? So this is one of the steps that I definitely recommend, right? So, and this, of course, works in a boardroom. You'll just project it there, and or in a virtual meeting. Okay, so the result basically is, you need to have live dashboards. You can simply share PowerPoint reports either in desktop or in service, or you embed live PowerPoint, live Power BI reports into PowerPoint, right? So somehow you need to have a narrative on a meeting, right? So as Tina explained, if you're doing it with Power BI, then use bookmarks, right? Because with bookmarks, you can actually create a narrative for the meeting, right? You can bookmark, the landing page without any filters, like it's a top view, right? And this is your first bookmark, which will be basically the first thing you will share on a meeting. Then you do some sort of drill down. You mark the US market, filter the US market, mark it as a bookmark. Tag it as, name it US, and this will be your second point in a meeting. So basically, with bookmarks, you're turning Power BI dashboards, Power BI reports into a linear narrative. Okay, so that's how you can do it in Power BI. But if you are using PowerPoint, then you simply embed, not take a screenshot and static picture into PowerPoint, but you embed one page of your Power BI report into your PowerPoint. Okay, which is also supported. It's a native functionality now that works really nicely in PowerPoint. So that would be basically my recommendation for the meeting. So use live reports, streamline them into narratives via bookmarks in Power BI, or by embedding parts of your Power BI reports into a nice narrative in PowerPoint. And then on the meeting, discuss it, do the drill downs, everything, and make comments that are very, very actionable, because those comments will actually be your action plan after your meeting is complete. Okay. And then you have, your action points. And then again, you have them already on the dashboard, right? So, when you start, the initiatives now, I don't know, a project or, an action that takes place, right? You will simply monitor it on the same dashboard, right? And you will see whether, you're steering your results towards the goals that were set. All right. I hope, these are some practical advice that will work for you. Of course, everything that we preached needs to be there. And since this was like an overview topic, I want to share some resources before we go to the Q&A section. So we have 46 hours of recorded material. So let me start here with our webinar recording. So we did 64, 46 webinars before that. All the recordings are here, zebrabi.com/webinars. So you will find all the tricks, like exactly how to create actionable, report page tooltips in Power BI, how to set up the commentary, integrate them into your Power BI reports, how to create great landing pages of your reports, how to structure them, and so on, what types of charts to use in certain, and so on, the income statements in Power BI. So everything is being recorded here, lots of material. That's the first thing I would recommend. Next, we are running live demos of Zebra BI for Power BI, but also for Office, with live Q&A each month. So that's another resource. And the best resource actually that we have is the Zebra BI Academy. So we have Zebra BI Academy for Power BI and Zebra BI Academy for Office, right? So that will teach you everything. So it's a full-blown course, totally free, that will tell you everything. For Power BI, it's all about everything, like extract, load the data with Power Query and so on into your Power BI, then how to model the DAX tricks and so on, and then also the dashboards and the visuals and so on. So it's a full course here, totally free. So explore this. You will also get a certificate at the end. And we have lots of templates. So I saw in the chat people asking for this, everything that you have seen today, but also many other templates for Power BI, for Excel, for PowerPoint. You can download from zebrabi.com/templates. Voila. Of course, use our visuals to make your dashboards and reports actionable, and to show all those variances, do the commentary, and everything. It's basically out of the box with Zebra BI tables, Zebra BI charts, and Zebra BI cards. So you will find them in Microsoft App Source for Power BI, but we also have the same visuals for Office. So they run also inside Excel and inside PowerPoint with the exact same functionality. It's IBCS certified. And our latest and greatest product, Zebra AI, that will make things quite easier for everyone. So check this one out as well. Thanks for now. Let's take a couple of questions. And of course, follow us on LinkedIn, on YouTube. But let me stop sharing so we can take a couple of questions here.
Yeah, thank you, Andrei. Actually, I did also had an eye on chat and also the questions, and actually one during our presentation, one grabbed my eye. So I would like to share it. Hope I can share it on screen if it works. Yeah. So Mike was actually asking, how do you address the illiteracy of C-level? So this clicking on the visuals, for cross-filtering, though, requires a bit of knowledge. And later on, I noticed in the chat there was a discussion between Eric and someone else. I forgot the name, but they were discussing, how dashboards should be first, designed in a way, that they are truly plain, simple, easy to grasp.
Yes.
And then also, I think Eric was saying, that the C-level managers usually have a right-hand person who does this for them. So interesting.
Yeah, they might have, but they might have some of course, most companies, they have lots of like analysts and then assistants and so on. However, this is a great point, right? I mean, we mentioned this several times today. It's the number one thing, right? Know your audience, right? So for sure, a dashboard designed for the C-level should be different than a dashboard that is being viewed by, professionals and analysts on a more operational level. And what does this mean exactly? The dashboard for C-level should have a minimum number of slicers and filters on top. Actually, I would recommend just 3: the month, the year, and maybe the switch from month to date to year to date. That's it. Everything else should be there. So they will just open it, and it should be, so which comes back to what Tina was preaching, right? C-level dashboards should be highly personalized. The biggest mistake you can do, just all over, and we have seen this many times over and over again in all the regions of our clients. So this is like 120 countries in the world, across all the industries, across different types of companies, big and small and so on. The biggest mistake people do is creating one-size-fits-all dashboards. Let me repeat this. The biggest mistake you can do in reporting is creating one-size-fits-all dashboards. But everybody is doing it. I see that, like, just go on any, just browse the internet, go on Power BI meetings and so on. People are preaching is like, oh, how to do these tricks, collapsible filter panel and stuff like that, and everybody's so excited. Oh, this looks really cool, and you click and this slicer panel will come out, and then it's nicely designed and beautiful, right? But your C-level people will not do that. They should not have a filter panel at all. You won't expect people to go, C-level people to go and click through all the different options. They don't have the time for that. They need one page with minimum amount of filters. Ideally, 0 filters. That's your target for C-level people. Next thing, dashboards for C-level people should have more comments than other audiences, more operational audiences. So with our C-level, maybe 2/3 of visuals and 1/3 of comments, short to the point comments that are very actionable, basically recommendations for them what to do. All right. Yeah, I hope this helps. So instead of one size fits all report, so basically one report for the whole company, no matter what's the level of audience and their goals and so on, and then, okay, they will filter, they will set their filter, that's fine, right? So, and it's their problem, right? So that doesn't work. So you need to get close. That's user experience. You need to understand your target audience, your persona, what's their goal, how much time do they have, what's their knowledge and so on. Also in terms of using charts. Some charts, have more cognitive load and are more complex, like waterfall charts and so on. And some charts are more simple. So you should know, who will understand certain types of charts. So how far you can push it, right?
Exactly. And as Tina mentioned, the first case that he was presenting was actually the executives, how to approach people who are senior level. There's few of them, so you can have individual approach to them, right? But then I think also Mike was following up on his question later on in the chat. I hope I remembered correctly, but he said, wait for a couple of years, and also the C-level executives will improve their literacy. As the newer generation come up, they will be more accepting the new technologies, the new ways of doing things. So definitely there is a future to that.
Not just the role. It's not just the role, but of course, you may have a young, very, very data literate person as a leader in C-level, but you also may have, some older generations. So it depends on this as well. And of course, this will help because people will be more knowledgeable. That's one aspect of it. And the second aspect of it, what will help is AI. Right? Because AI agents will do more stuff, and and will help you, and you'll be more productive, and then it'll be easier to deliver more things that are more personalized and tailored to the audience and so on, because we'll have just very smarter tools we work with.
Yeah. Yes, and they still, if they still have problems, you can send them to our webinars, and we will take it over from there.
Absolutely, that's the best. Just go to our webinars page. So zebrabi.com. We did have webinars on this, right? So with more 7 rules for landing pages and stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. So I think, most of the questions were already kind of addressed in the Q&A section by our colleague Mattia, who was doing a tremendous job also in the chat, where I see there's still quite a lot of discussion going on. So, but I think if Andre, you agree, we are quite good on time. So perhaps we say, have a nice holidays, make actionable reports, and enjoy the next days.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Thanks, guys.